Hey YouTube, Jedi here. In this video I wanted to go over some epic champions. I'm just going to run through the list, give my opinions on them, especially the ones that I have. The ones I don't have, I'll just talk a little bit about what I know as far as what I see other players using. For starters, we got Horus here. He's an amazing tank. He has a tiny bit of utility with a taunt on his last ability, and also an attack penalty down on his A2. I don't really use him with any accuracy to use these. I just use him to soak up the damage, and he is an S tier tank for sure. Next in line, we have Brody here. He's a decent champion. There's only one reason I would build him, and that is for the Grave of Curse. He can remove that shield off the boss. You can time him out to do it where you need it. Dude's super amazing for that. Outside of removing that shield, I would say he doesn't really have a whole lot of use. So decent champion, but just a very niche use for him. And Dane here, epic, says support. I use this guy as an attack champion. This guy is insanely good. I would say he is an S tier epic for sure. His A3 ability, we get that attack penalty down, and also he dispels 2 buffs from enemies. This attack is pretty much where it's at. I use this for tons of dungeons, pretty much in almost every dungeon. At some point I used him, especially early game, mid game, but even late game, still gets a ton of use. He does a lot of damage. He's really good in PvP. I like him in there. Now, if they update PvP to where we can control when we use our attacks and where we use them, he would be a lot better. As of right now, he's a little harder to time out in PvP, but for PvE, this guy is absolutely amazing. If you get him, I would 100% recommend to build him. You can use him in every area of the game. And then he also get his aura here for increasing 30% attack in City of Trials. It's very useful. City of Trials is a event where you can only use your flame champions. Now Fira here, I haven't actually built mine out. I do have a clanmate who uses this champion. Kind of similar to Gardas, we get this resistance aura, which is really useful. I think if you don't have Gardas, this is definitely worth building for that resistance aura. The A3, we get that attack penalty down. This is another very useful buff, and can dispel some buffs. Actually, I might have to look more into this champion. It's kind of similar to Dane almost. We got some dispelling some buffs and an attack penalty down, but it's attack penalty 2. Yeah, I mean, looking at that, definitely ended up being really good with the resistance aura. That's pretty nice. And then we get this one, 75% chance of inflicting buff immunity. The A2s are hard because you can't control when they go off, but that's still a very good skill. Overall, Fear, I think, has uses that can go in tons of the dungeons, if not all of them. You can find somewhere to plug in the teams. So I would say definitely worth building. This champion here I don't have. It's pretty much my most wanted epic because it is a wild champion. If you get the free legendary Eric, this champion pairs really good with Eric. So if you have Eric from season 1, you're looking at a team you want to build going into season 1, I would recommend teaming this champion up with Eric. I don't really know how to say the name, Tonalin, but very good, gets that attack up. I would say main use is that it's wild and pairs. Next section, we have the poison champions here. I've built 2 of these, Furbath and Cypherus. These other 2 haven't really messed with. Etchus, I've seen her a lot in PvP. She has this recharge speed penalty, which is really good in PvP. And if you got enough accuracy as well with this Charmed, forcing other targets to attack their allies. So she's definitely really good for PvP. I'm not sure if she has a super use in PvE. I have seen her in Grave of Rot for her healing prohibition, but it's on A2, so it's hard to time. So it's not the best for Grave of Rot, but overall, decent champion. Looks like she'd be very good for PvP. Quarren here, I haven't used him at all. I don't really know too much about him, and I don't see him used a whole lot. So he probably has his place in a good poison team. I mean, it looks like, looking at his moves, that he would. And he has a passive, which you don't get a whole lot of for some champions. So for City Trials, so if you build a poison team for just your poisoners in City Trials, I think he'd be pretty good. Other than that, can't comment too much on him. Furbath here, he is definitely an S tier tank. This guy is amazing defense-based champion. He gives a defense aura, so that helps a lot. This initial one, he has a little bit of healing to an ally with the lowest HP and dispels a buff from them. That pairs really good when you're also using Hexandra with her heal and her 1 debuff. His A2, this one's really probably his best move. He generates that healing nexus, so he heals any of your basically your melee people who are coming up in the fray with him. He keeps them healed up, so he's a really good supplement healer for that front line. And then on his last move, an attack penalty 2, which you can't underestimate. That's a really good move too. So overall, he just has an amazing kit. I usually push my defense up as much as I can on my builds with him. And I try to get enough accuracy for whatever I'm doing. So basically I just focus accuracy and defense, and then whatever remaining I can get an HP. The rest of the skills I don't worry too much about. If you can get skill haste, that's a bonus. It's hard to get the runes with the skill haste, but this guy's overall S tier tank. Sifris here, I've seen her used by a lot of other players, especially in PvP. Personally, I'm not a big fan of this champion. She's not bad, but she kind of hurts herself. So we got this passive. When her HP drops below 30%, she gains resurrection at death. That's good considering she also hurts herself, as you're going to see. So we get her A2 here, consumes 10% of her own HP to heal her allies by 20%. This is where I think her kit hurts her the most. I think that's too much of a HP that she takes off herself. And the reason being is because her ultimate is she resurrects allies. Well, the problem is if she keeps taking her own HP and you don't have another healer that can keep up with that to keep her healed, she dies and never has a chance to use this. So she can be good, but personally I'm just not a big fan of that part of it. I've tried to tune her with other teams, use her in Vortex and stuff like that, and she just, for the most part, no matter how I build her, she tends to be too squishy because she's killing herself, and she tends to kill herself before she's very useful. So maybe she'll get changed, maybe she'll be better in the future, but as of right now, not the best. Going into the lightning, you'll see I only have Lydia and Iola. I don't have these two over here, but I did play on the test servers, and I would actually say these two are probably better champions than the other two. So starting with Shargol, he's dauntless. He's used all over PvP. He's a good PvE champion as well. He leaps into the back line, so this guy is just really good for that. Tears up all the champions on the back line, gives himself that attack up. Both of his attacks give him the leap. And then he also gives an attack speed up for Aura, which is amazing. And then this is in all battles, which there's not a lot of all battles, especially on epic champions. Overall, definitely S tier damage dealer. Now this guy here, the Raging Cleric, he's also dauntless, so he pairs good with our first guy over here, Shargol. Sorry, I forget their names. But he does this lightning shield and gets an attack up for his people. And then also his A3, when I've used it doing a thunder gift, it actually tends to do quite a bit of damage. You pair him with a lot of dauntless champions. So if you have, especially if you pull any dauntless legendaries, and you pair them with these two, you're going to have a solid team. Definitely recommend them. Lydia here, she's a decent tank. I use her a little bit, mostly in like faction stuff that requires lightning poison teams, or when they change it in the future it'll be lightning and whatever affinity is good with it in season 1. So she is a good tank. She grants this control immunity to your team. This is good and stuff like the Fey Towers or whatever you want to call it, Fey Wildlands. She's good at helping protect your team from getting controlled on those things. So on basically when you're fighting anything with multiple champions, some of those rounds will even have 6-7 champions. She's good at keeping your team alive with that. She gives an attack speed up also, which is pretty good for battle skill. Overall, I do like her, but I do use Horus a lot more than I use her as a tank. And then Iola here, support champion. She does an attack penalty down, which is really good. Basically any champion with that's pretty good. She does have this chance for the silence. That's nice to have land. It's good for helping control some waves. Attack penalty down is amazing for waves and bosses. She also has the silence on here. And then her attacks are all based on lightning. She's overall, she gives this attack aura too, which is really good. Overall, I'd say she's a pretty good champion. I use her a little bit. I don't use her a whole lot. Mostly use her in my lightning teams, going through lightning content. But for an epic, she's good. If you, same thing as other champions, if you pull some of these legendaries that pair well with her, then it's good to use her. Now on our radiant champions down here, I only have 2 out of all of them. It seems like they have the most epic champions. The 2 I have, so Martina, during season 0, if you spent any money at all, they gave you her for free. So I spent $5 to help support the game and also get her. She has really good AoE team hits, and then she's a rally champion. I haven't built a rally team yet. From what I've gotten from my friends who built rally teams, they're not really all that great, but they have their uses, but it's more of a niche team. Rally team is probably one of the weaker of the slots between, you have rally, dauntless, lightning, wild. Rally's probably at the lower tier of that, but she's a really good champion, especially if you don't have good damage dealing legendaries. You can build her out to deal a ton of damage. When you're doing the Goblin Lair stuff to mine XP, you need good AoE hitters, and she just destroys them in there. So I definitely recommend her for that. Now Clovis here, he's a pretty good tank. He's one of my favorite champions. I just like his design a lot. I like his setup a lot. He gives us defense aura, and then he gives himself stacks of persistence, which increases defense by 10% up to 30%. So this guy with his aura and his passive skill, you can just get tons of defense out of him, make him extremely tanky. So I build him just pushing as much defense as I can. If you can get a little accuracy, that's good too, because he has this taunting ability with a defense up on himself. But that taunt, it doesn't just taunt the person you hit, it can taunt people around them, pretty much the team. So that's very useful. And then this final ability, attack penalty down 2. As I've said on other champions who have it, you just can't go wrong with this one. Now this one is a single hitter because it also does this ultimate down. This move in general, just pretty much any use you want him in the game, he does good. I definitely recommend building him out as a tank, trying him out if you don't have him. He also pairs well if you have another tank, then just build him up with tons of accuracy and as much defense as you can, and his moves help out throughout these stages. Now these other champions I can't talk too much about. I know Kumari here, I believe, has a resurrection. Yeah, he resurrects allies. This guy playing in PvE, he tends to dominate teams. When you see him coming up, it's like one of those that you're going to be spending a little bit of time trying to counter his team. So I would say he's probably an S tier. Like I said, I haven't tried him myself, but just checking out with that resurrection. And then he's a super tanky defense champion. So, I mean, he's really, really good to have too. This guy here, Hugo, I see him in PvP a little bit. He jumps around some. He's another rally champion. Maybe paired with Martina and some other rally champs, he'll be good. Overall, from what I've seen of him, he's nothing too crazy. But he might be able to make him work in something. Nessa here, I don't really see this champion much at all. We do have an attack aura, that's pretty good. See a passive heal, we get an ultimate down. See, reduces the energy recharge of the target's ultimate skill. That's usually always good. Probably going to be a pretty decent champion. Throws a dagger, inflicting attack penalty down 2, so that's good, but it is single target, so better for bosses than it is for waves. And then also another single target with the healing prohibition. Healing prohibition is really good in Grave of Rot. So with the attack penalty down and the healing prohibition, I can see her getting some good use in the Grave of Rot team. So overall, looks decent. I don't know if that's anything super amazing, but looks decent. Halvis here, another rally champion. Probably going to be good paired with a rally team as they synergize well together. Attack in all battles, that's good. That's good aura. So this hero can duplicate some rally on the battlefield. That's good, especially for the rally teams. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, nothing too special in the moves, to be honest. But decent champion. Looks like only one AoE, and then this is single target. Probably nothing too crazy. Maybe decent in a rally team. Frost teams here. It's another one that has a lot of champions. I've got 3 of them. This guy here, he hits pretty hard. I actually have him in my Vortex team right now, or I did have him actually. I replaced him with a rare, so maybe he's not too amazing. I don't have him scrolled out, but he can hit pretty hard if you build him correctly. I did replace him with Usha here. I feel like she just hit harder in my team, but I also have the scrolls to scroll her out. I don't want to waste epic scrolls on him yet, so I haven't used them. These 2 champions I haven't used at all. As you can see, I don't have them. This guy's Frost, probably pairs good in a Frost team. Of course, all his moves center around Frost. Solo's here, support champion. We got an accuracy aura. That's pretty good. I haven't seen that before. Let's see here. We get an attack penalty down on a passive skill, so that's probably pretty good. Heals an ally, so a little bit of heal, hit recovery, 2 rounds of hell arrows. Reducing ultimate by 30%, so this guy's probably really good. Anyone with that ultimate reduction is really good, especially in PvP, so he's probably a good PvP champion. Next in line we got Gardas over here. Gardas is one of my favorite champions. He's not S tier, he's probably closer to B tier honestly, but he's a really good champion. Love playing around with him. We get this resistance aura. I use it in Grave of Rot, Feywilds, and I like to play around with it in PvP and in dungeons. Pretty good aura. Helps out a lot. Now he has this recharged ultimate energy by some amount. 25% chance to immunize the inflicted debuff, so he's pretty good at keeping himself from getting debuffed and keeping himself alive between his aura and this. Plus with that ultimate energy recharge, helps out a lot. His A2, we got this attack penalty down, which is always good. This is good for bosses because it's on a single target. His A3 is where this guy gets a tons of use. He has basically for 3 box range all the way through the entire map. He hits everyone. He will push everyone from their spot to the very back spot. I like to utilize this in where I will make Gardas fairly quick, and then he'll use this, knock everyone to where they're all in one spot, and then I'll use my AoE people to just hit the other teams. So that's good for PvP, but it's also gotten some PvE matches and Feywild waves and stuff like that. It's been very good for grouping up those enemies and just doing massive damage. The other good thing with it is when you knock them back, you can stun them. So when you knock them back, stun them, they can't move, and it gives all your AoE hitters time to do everything that they need to do to the team. So you can get AoE attack downs on everyone, you can get AoE defense penalties on everyone, just whatever you're trying to do. So this guy, he's pretty beast for those waves. Highly recommend playing around with him if you get him. This guy, I don't have him, but I see him in the arena a lot. He's really good for the arena because when he dies, he gets this, right before he dies, he gets this invincibility. So he becomes immune to all damage, so he makes a good tank. Now he is countered by people like my Dane who just remove debuffs. So if you want this guy to be useful, you need him to still be pretty tanky because there are people who can take that off. Well, he also gets a resistance by 50 in the arena, so I mean, I guess that's why you probably see him in the arena, because you could build good resistance teams with him, but definitely a good arena tank. I'm not sure about PvE because I don't have him, but for arena I do see him quite a bit. This guy right here, Pargu, he used to be king. He used to do a ton of damage. They revamped him. He doesn't do the damage anymore, but he does do tons of penalties. The only thing with him is that he gets random penalties inflicted, so he can be good, but the randomness is the only hard part. It's hard to like decide what team to put him in, because if you don't land the penalties you're trying to get for those teams, then it's not going to work out for you very well. So overall, I mean, he's a decent champion. You can use him in some good teams, use him as an extra support and getting those penalties, but he's not really that special. He's definitely a lower tiered epic in my opinion, just because of the randomness of his attack. Voresh here, personally, he is my favorite ice champion. To me, he is an S tier attack champion. This game, for those of you who haven't played before, you don't have to pay too much attention when it says support and stuff like that, because some of these support champions hit really hard. So this guy, he's a good backup healer. He does a little bit of healing in your team. His A2 is a little bit of damage and has a chance for dispelling a debuff. But his A3 is where it's at. This A3 hits everywhere on the map. No one can hide from him. This guy hits hard. Build him up. Tons of attack. All of his heals base off of that attack percentage. So basically you can push him, 3,500 plus attack, and you're going to get massive heals while simultaneously hitting everyone and putting a buff immunity. I like to in PvP. I like to build him really fast, drop that buff immunity on the entire opposing team, then they can't buff themselves, and then you can start taking them out pretty easily. In PvE, similar strategy, but in PvE, prefer to just push attack and use those heals coming out after him. And then there are the dungeons where that buff immunity can come in handy, like the Grave of Curse is really good. You get the buff immunity, and the boss can't put that shield on himself, so he goes in good there, which then nullifies your need for that niche champion like Brody. But overall, S tier. Highly recommend building him if you get him. And now our last group is our Necrotic here. I haven't built a ton of Necrotic teams, although I started to once I got this legendary. This guy I don't really know anything about, other than I know he does some summons. I see him a lot in Feywilds, a little bit in PvP. Doesn't seem like anything too crazy to me. He gets this ultimate up on himself, so that's not bad. He gets the skeleton summon. This thing is easy to kill. I can see where for certain teams, if you're building a summoning team, it can help you overwhelm the enemy, but overall nothing too crazy in my opinion. I think the summon teams are actually kind of down with the rally teams. They're nothing too crazy. And then shoot 3 energy waves. I'm not sure how hard he hits because I haven't played with him, so I can't talk on that thing. I can just say from personal experience, the summon teams are nothing to really write home about. Now this one, Questa, she is an amazing support champion. Get you this attack aura. She's super tanky. She's hard to kill, so she's really good to use in PvP. She sucks when you face her in PvE. Every time an enemy dies, she gets recovery over time to all allies, which is decent. Recovery over time is not the best heal, but it's still good. We get this one where she charges towards the enemies, so you can get her into the back line sometimes with this attack penalty down too. And then this final one, which is really where it's at, jumps, so she can jump into those back lines. She deals lots of attack and necrotic, stealing 30% of the ultimate, which is always good. Just overall, when you start using her, she's an extremely tanky champion. I build her with tons of attack and make her one of my attackers in the team, and she still just dominates the other team and survives. Even if I build her where she seems like she's squishy, she still tends to survive, so she's very good. Thea here, she's decent. I like her. We get this accuracy aura. She's more of a niche champion for me. I use her in Grave of Venom. I don't use her anywhere else. In Grave of Venom, she has this healing prohibition. Basically, I time it out to hit the boss right before he chews on your champion and gets all his heals, and this counters that pretty well. Now we'll say getting into later game, I replaced my team with one that just does tons of damage to counter that, so she doesn't necessarily have to be used for that. So she's decent, but nothing like crazy, and she's hard to carry on into anything past stage 8. The stage 9 dungeon on there, she's not that amazing for, because she's hard to keep alive. So she's good, but not spectacular. Definitely more of a niche use. There's probably other places in the game that she's good for. I just haven't found them yet. So if you have her, if you need like that healing prohibition, I recommend building her. But if you don't need a healing prohibition, nothing too crazy. And this guy here is another summon champion. I don't have him, so I can't talk too bad about him, but all I can say is I don't ever see him, as I don't really see very many of these summon champions. When I see him in PvE, the summons he make die really quick. He gives himself these attack ups, but usually I don't even see that in PvE because I counter it with my Dane or my Vordash with removing buffs or blocking them from getting buffs. So overall, can't say too much, but I don't think he's going to be that great of a champion to build. So that's all the epics. It's just kind of a quick opinion rundown on them. Personal opinion, if I have to like pick a best out of each faction, for this faction, definitely Questa. She's the best out of these epics. Definitely recommend building her if you get her. The other ones, only if you need them to fill in roles in your team. Frost Champion number 1, hands down to me, is Voresh. Highly recommend building him. But I would say if you get Gardas, I definitely recommend trying him out. Dalbam here, like I said, he's been good in PvP. So I'm sure for some of you, if you get him, he's going to be a good option to use in there. But overall, Voresh, definitely the best one. Radiant, I only have 2. I think the best one is actually probably Kamari, based off of his kit and from what I've seen with him. My personal favorite right now has been Clovis. I really like both the champions that I have. I don't regret building them at all. If you need someone who does good damage, Martina's really good. If you need decent tanking, Clovis is good. He also has that good extra utility. Lightning champions, I only have Lydia and Iola. They're both decent. They're nothing too crazy. If you're building a lightning team or whatever lightning's going to mix with in season 1 and you need a tank and you have Lydia, she's good to use for that. Probably the best one in here, Shagrol, I don't know how to say his name. He's an amazing attack champion. I would definitely label him as number 1 in here. Like I said, I have him on the test server. I use him everywhere on the test server, and I see him tons in PvP with other people using him. The poison champion, I would say Furbath is hands down number 1 in here. Absolutely love him. Highly recommend building him if you get him. The other champions are just to fill in roles. Really, that's it. I can't really say too much about Corin. Hetches, I mean, decent, but I feel like more niche use. And Cypherus, like I said, she kills herself too much. I built her, and I regret building her because I don't use her anywhere. And even after I built her, I didn't really use her anywhere because I couldn't find good uses for her. Now, the fire champions, this one goes between 2, either Dane or Horus. Dane, definitely like A tier damage champion. Freaking love him. Best damage dealer out of these champions right here. Horus, though, is an S tier tank. So if you get either of these 2, highly recommend building them and using them. Brody, very niche use. Fira seems like it's going to be good, but I can't talk too much because I haven't used mine much. And then this champion, so good with the wild team. Overall, the flame champions just seem to be very well built, good champions to use. So you won't regret building any of them. I will say overall in this game, all the champions seem to be pretty well built. So for those of you who are coming into this into this game season 1, you're going to be happy with any of the epics you pull and you build out, as long as you can kind of synergize them with your other teams. Now, right now, I know it's like Fire Radiant, so I'm not sure what Fire is going to go with next season. But for Fire Radiant, I've been mixing Horus, Dane, Martina, and Clovis. They've all been really good with each other. I also, of course, plugged in rares that I like a lot, which I talk about in other videos, so I'm not going to get into that. But anyways, that's it for this video. Just wanted to give you guys my opinions on the epics. Hope y'all liked it. Y'all have a good one.